Mr. President, I'd like to begin by thanking the Assistant Secretary General, Mr. Khaled Kiari, for that briefing. France recalls its commitment to the unity, territorial integrity, and the sovereignty of Somalia, in accordance with the United Nations Charter. France welcomes the recent renewals of the sanctions regime targeting the terrorist group Al-Shabaab and the mandates of the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission, as well as the UN Support Office in Somalia. This represents decisive support provided by this Council to Somalia in its quest for security and stability. It's essential to avoid any action liable of compromising peace and security in Somalia, as well as in the Horn of Africa and the Gulf of Aden. Internal disputes within Somalia must be resolved in a negotiated manner in the context of a dialogue between all Somali stakeholders. Easing of political tensions within the country is crucial to effectively counter terrorism and to enable the smooth conduct of future elections. Mr. President, I wish to recall in conclusion that, faithful to the spirit of the New York Declaration adopted by the General Assembly on the 12th of September this year, France will continue to stand opposed to any forced displacement of the civilian population and to any violation of international law and international humanitarian law in particular. Thank you.
I thank the representative of France. Give the floor to the representative of the United Kingdom.
Thank you, President. I thank ASG Chiari for briefing us. I will make 3 points. First, the United Kingdom reaffirms its support for the sovereignty, territorial integrity, political independence and unity of Somalia. The UK does not recognise Somaliland's independence. We maintain that any change to Somaliland's status depends on mutual agreement between Mogadishu and Hargeisa through dialogue and must conform to the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. We regret any action that risks undermining peace and security in the region. Second, we urge further efforts between the federal government of Somalia and the Somaliland authorities to address differences and work together to face common threats. Al-Shabaab and other terrorist organisations benefit from internal divisions in Somalia. We encourage Mogadishu and Hargeisa to pursue dialogue with the support of regional bodies and the international community to resolve these divisions. Third, we underscore the importance of continued international support to Somalia's security transition. Just this month, the Council renewed its authorisations for the African Union Support and Stabilisation Mission in Somalia, extended the provision of the UN logistical support to Osman through UNSOS, mandated a strong package of sanction measures to degrade Al-Shabaab. In September, the United Kingdom announced a contribution of over $30 million to support Somalia's security transition, including $22 million to Osman. As a close and long-standing partner of Somalia, we remain committed to supporting the federal government in its efforts to build a secure and stable Somalia. We urge greater international support to this end. In closing, President, the UK also welcomes the peaceful conduct of the local elections in Mogadishu and reaffirms its support for Somalia's democratic aspirations. We encourage all political actors to work together to reach consensus on next steps. Thank you.
President, I thank you for convening this meeting. China fully supports the request by Somalia, Algeria, Sierra Leone, and Guyana for an emergency council meeting. I thank SG Chiari for the briefing. On December 26, Israel announced its formal recognition of Somaliland as a so-called independent sovereign state and established full diplomatic relations with it. This has further increased tensions in the Horn of Africa. drawing immediate and strong criticism and condemnations from regional organizations including the AU, Arab League, GCC, OIC, and IGAD, as well as many regional countries. China also expresses grave concern over this move and firmly opposes it. Respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity is a fundamental principle of the UN Charter and an unshakable cornerstone of international law and international relations, which all UN member states must strictly observe. Somaliland is an inalienable part of Somali territory. China firmly supports Somalia's sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity and opposes any act to split its territory. China has always maintained that the Somaliland issue is entirely Somalia's internal affairs. It should be resolved by the Somali people in a way consistent with the national conditions and the Constitution. Non-regional countries should cease unwarranted interference. No country should aid and abet separatist forces in other countries to further their own geopolitical interests. We urge the relevant country to act responsibly, strictly observe the UN Charter and international law, heed the call of the international community, immediately rectify its erroneous act, and eliminate the negative effects as soon as possible. We urge the Somaliland authorities to grasp the situation, immediately stop separatist activities and collusion with external forces, and return to the track of dialogue with the federal government of Somalia as soon as possible to avoid further threatening regional peace and stability and opening the door to more tensions and conflicts. President, Somalia is at a critical juncture in its political and security transition. The international community should assist the country in strengthening counterterrorism capabilities, advancing political dialogue, and promoting national unity. As a good friend of Somalia and regional countries, China will continue to firmly support Somalia's sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity, uphold fairness and justice, and together with the international community, worked harder for the peace, stability, development, and prosperity in Somalia and in the region. Thank you, President.
The representative of the Russian Federation.
President, we thank Assistant Secretary General Khaled Kiari for his briefing. We, much like the majority of our Security Council colleagues, we are deeply concerned by Israel's politically motivated decision to recognize the independence of Somaliland. This decision is at odds with the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the unity of the Federal Republic of Somalia. We very much understand the well-founded reaction to this decision on the part of the government of the Federal Republic of Somalia, the African Union leadership, regional states, and Arab and Muslim countries. We are concerned by potential consequences, including about a potential escalation of tensions in the Horn of Africa and beyond. In principle, we are in favor of settling intra-Somalian contradictions on the basis of inclusive national dialogue without any external interference. We support Mogadishu's efforts to resolve security threats, to establish lasting peace, and to implement its sovereign priorities, factoring in the cultural and historical diversity of this multi-ethnic nation. We call on entities not to attempt to further their own geopolitical regions in the Horn of Africa region by capitalizing on the systemic problems of African states. We'd also like to emphasize that decisions akin to the one taken by the Israeli cabinet risk further complicating the efforts of Mogadishu and its partners' efforts to combat al-Shabaab terrorists. Colleagues, just last week, speaking in this very chamber on the topic of the vote on the Security Council resolution on AWESOM, the AU Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia, members of this council spoke at length about the price that's been paid for these efforts. Above all, the price involved thousands of lives laid down by African peacekeepers, Somalian security forces and civilians. We cannot forget this. On a separate note, it's worth noting that current complex challenges we see in Somalia are, to a large extent, the consequences of the onerous legacy of the era of Western colonialism. The same can be said for other African states. I think it's an open secret to all in this chamber where the root causes of the majority of territorial disputes and inter-ethnic and interfaith contradictions in contemporary Africa lie. The Russian Federation and the USSR before it constantly spoke of this, both at the Security Council and at the General Assembly. Together with a wide array of like-minded countries, the Russian Federation continues to combat colonialism in all of its forms, first and foremost by helping to build a genuinely multipolar world based on equal and mutually beneficial interstate relations, free from diktats, free from external interference. Specifically, in December, the Group of Friends in Defense of the UN Charter submitted a resolution that was adopted by the General Assembly, a resolution proclaiming the 14th of December the International Day Against Colonialism. As the situation we're discussing today shows, Africa still needs such active national efforts aimed at anti-colonialism. We call on all sensible states interested in helping to build a genuinely independent and successful African development models to join us. In the anti-colonial context, in relation to the situation in Somalia, it's also important to repeat our principled position. Voluntary financial assistance to Somalians is provided free of charge. It cannot be preconditioned on the fulfilling of political requirements. By way of conclusion, we'd like to express our solidarity with the government of the Federal Republic of Somalia and the Somalian people during this difficult period. Russia will continue supporting Mogadishu in combating both international terrorism as well as efforts to exert unilateral political and economic pressure. I thank you.
I thank the representative of